Good morning, Wabash. Speaking today at Pioneer Chapel will be Mark Elrod with his talk titled, Find Your Mountain. Mark is a Wabash College graduate from the class of 1999. After Wabash, he worked at a restaurant, an EPA compliance laboratory, and retail pharmacy to finally return home to the Wabash Biology Department as a laboratory preparer. Mark has extensively explored food and drink, or TWR, through research of historical examples, preparation, traditional techniques, testing, and most importantly, tasting. Since 2006, Mark has made 70 different recognized styles of beer, over 200 batches brewed, resulting in over 2,900 gallons. That's over 23,000 pints, or over 31,000 12-ounce beers for our 30 can case buyers in the audience. Via the Indiana Brewers Cup, he has received first, second, and third place ribbons in 3 different categories of beer styles. In addition to his TWR self-reliance, Mark and his wife, Dr. Amanda Ingram, grow a large portion of their annual groceries in the Crawfordsville Urban Garden. From typical tomato and potato crops to herbs and paprika, yes, the red near-tasteless powder from a tin can be a wonderful homegrown showstopper. Mark has resided in Crawfordsville with his wife and 2 cats, Julius and Cleo, since 2006 and is a member of the Delta Tau Delta Alumni Advisory Group. Let's give a warm welcome to Mark.
Good morning, Wabash. So a few things off the cuff that aren't in my prepared speech. Gas was $2.14 this morning on my way in, so that's awesome. My wife and I live in a house that's over 100 years old, so things don't always go the way you want in an old house. And it's springtime, and life is abound. And yesterday, our 12-year-old cat, Julius, he was on point. He was staring at the washer and dryer. And so we knew that we had something in the house. And last night, around maybe 9:30 or 10 o'clock, he started bellowing, and it's kind of a muffled bellow, so he found himself a mouse. So our 12-year-old cat is still, he's still worth the money. So he's still doing his job. So I'm happy that he's still working for it. And then in preparation for this talk, I don't want to throw Chris Cantu under the bus too far, but he invited me a year ago to do a talk in the fall. We happen to have our wires crossed with other programming, so I didn't get to do my talk in the fall, so I graciously bumped to the spring. So I've been working on this talk for a long time, and in preparation for it, I watched 2 YouTube videos of major people talking to crowds, because I'm not great at public speaking. It kind of throws me into a little bit of a tailspin. And the 2 people I picked were Sacha Baron Cohen as his character Ali G. He was presenting on Harvard Senior Day as Ali G. So I can't really repeat anything that Ali G said. The only thing I will do is a booyakasha. And then the other person is Conan O'Brien, who's a comedian who I've loved for a long time. I do not have the hair or the height to try to pull off a Conan O'Brien, but he was speaking at Dartmouth's graduation. And the thing I take away from his talk the most is pandering to your audience. So occasionally, the intro was definitely, I will not be talking about beer that much today, but I knew an intro with lots of beer facts would maybe pull some people in on a nice spring day when you have a lot of other things to do. So I'd like to thank Chris for inviting me and the Sings Club for the invitation. and you guys gifting me your time after as you're digesting a donut and thinking maybe a little bit more about lunch. I was tempted to talk about politics or our current incursion overseas, but I thought I might lose members of my audience quickly. It's become more personal for me. Sorry. My cousin is in the 31st Marine Expeditionary Force that's now moved towards the Middle East. So, well, it would just be a normal concern, has heightened. You know, other controversial topics like parking at Wabash might have been fun. Low-hanging fruit like DePaul could have made for an easy, crowd-pleasing topic. It goes without saying that I do not have any love for the other school down south, but I choose to only focus on them during sporting events. And then after the game is over, I don't think about them at all. I would recommend that as a good life kind of focus, not thinking about them when we're not playing them. While I love to talk about beer, the chapel break does not offer me enough time to say all that I can say about fermented beverages. So I've decided to talk to you today about my most recent current life passion, and that would be hiking up mountains. I'll speak for a few minutes about my childhood and early life to set up the stage for where I am right now. I love pickles, but I hate cucumbers. My first memory, assisted with some home video recollection of me as a toddler, is of me picking a cucumber off of the vine, taking a bite out of it, immediately repulsed. I push the bite back onto the cucumber and try to like moonwalk my way out of the room. And I can still see this video that my parents have provided for me. I come from a pickle-eating family, and so I believe that as a one-year-old, I had already experienced pickles and thought, like, I'd found the mother lode here. I also hate squirrels. It's a troubling thing to have working at Wabash College. I was coerced as about a 5-year-old by my older brothers to pet a squirrel while we were at a park. That squirrel happened to be sick. It allowed me to get too close, and it bit me. Rabies hysterics ensued, and eventually the squirrel lost his head. That's how you check in the brain of the squirrel to see whether they have rabies. I'm fine. Thanks for asking. So if you see me avoiding our squirrels on campus, just please remember, they drew first blood, not me. My two brothers and I grew up in the comforts of suburbia. We played up and down the streets as children in our neighborhood until the sun set down. We had enough generally, but never a lot. While we were never a wealthy family, we always had premium cable for most of my memory of as a childhood. For the younger guys in the crowd, premium cable. So cable is like your streaming services. So like your Amazon Prime and your Netflix, but it came through literally a cable. And then premium cable was like you had all of them. And it may not seem as like that big of a deal now, but like in my neighborhood, having premium cable, you were like you got all your friends to come over. And my favorite channel was Comedy Central. And back then, Comedy Central literally just played like stand-up comedy. That you just watch like guys standing behind a brick background and they were cursing and swearing and saying things that you'd never heard before. So for me, I kind of leaned into comedy. It was a way for me to kind of cope and adjust with weird and strange things that were happening in my life, things that were difficult. So I leaned into like making fun of things. Early in my life, I struggled with weight and body image issues. I can recall vividly having to move to a special section of the kids' clothing area that was labeled husky. This was after my skinnier brothers were able to pick out their back-to-school clothing. I had to go to like the tubby boy section. So even to this day, the word husky is just like, it just brings back a lot of unfortunate memories. I joined the wrestling team after I was cut from the basketball team in middle school, the best weight loss program for your money. In my first week at Wabash, I joined a fraternity, and within a few hours after formal rush ended, I had my first beer. It was not my last beer. Despite many extra liquid calories, metabolism was still on my side. Most of my weight gain occurred in my 30s when I began focusing my free time on crafting and tasting my home brews. My work life prior to Wabash was stressful and did not facilitate healthy habits outside of work. My transition to Wabash facilitated a renewal of physical fitness, a better work-life balance, and a departure from the corporate make more profits mantra. My personal development extended into other hobbies: deer hunting, gardening, beer making, and mountain hiking. Hunting helps me more self-sufficiently and responsibly monitor my meat consumption. The use and opportunity to make new products to diversify my venison offerings. This last season, I took the back leg of a deer, I cured it, I smoked it, I sliced it, and now I have packages of like lunch meat that I've made myself. Gardening has always been a part of my life, well, since I tried my first cucumber. Exploring new crops that I grow in my urban farm has provided me with near endless opportunities to make new foods. Brewing beer gave me the ability to create beers that perfectly match my palate. Not at first, but through repeated efforts. And finally, where I wish to take you today is to the High Peaks Wilderness, a portion of the Greater Adirondacks Park in upstate New York. This park is 6 million acres large. That's more than Yellowstone, Everglades, Glacier, and the Grand Canyon combined. I have a crippling fear of heights. So why do I climb mountains? I could talk for days about hunting, gardening, weeks on beer making, and then probably a year on beer tasting. So I land in the mountains and how I got to them. Well, to the top of them. With my middle-aged body, a knee with arthritis that doesn't want to do anything, and a few, many extra pounds of body weight. Recent Wabash graduate Austin Shivington, a 2021 Delt, was on my radar from his first semester here, as he had taste and behaviors of a man twice his age. As a freshman, he appreciated good food, knew more about wine than I did, and he had a laugh that could wake a bear from hibernation. Well, actually torpor. I don't need to hear it from my colleagues in biology that bears don't hibernate, they actually torpor. I know, but I'm playing to my crowd. They understand hibernation. Austin and I grew closer through community service activities during the COVID era. He helped me track a wounded deer during archery season, and as a chemistry guy, he was in Hayes, the building where I work a lot. Austin continued his education in the pursuit of a PhD in organic metallochemistry at IU Bloomington. In 2023, we made our first trip up to the High Peaks Wilderness. I was totally physically ill-prepared to function in snowshoes and on slopes. On our first trip out, we walked on a flat surface just to practice what it would feel like to walk in snowshoes. My boots were too large, my feet slid around and within the boots, and I developed multiple blisters on both of my feet. I bought blister pads and hiked 2 days later. My first attempt was up Hurricane Mountain, and it went poorly. It is a 4.6-mile round trip with about an 1,800-foot elevation gain. Theoretically, it should have been easy. There were 2 feet of snow on the ground and several awkward water crossings that resulted in my frequent slips and falls. After 8 hours, we were back where we started. I had failed to reach the summit. This failure ate at me. A year later, we returned in December with another Delt. from the same class of 2021, Neil Hayhurst. We were not able to leave immediately on Friday due to Neil's med school schedule. So I did what any knowledgeable Wabash man would do. I found a friendly home with Wabash connections. The drive from central Indiana to the Adirondacks is 14 hours. So I found a midway stop. In Buffalo, we stayed with Kathy and Joe. These are the proud parents of our very own Professor Sarah Meltretter. I became quick friends with her parents at her recent milestone birthday celebration. Being with a host family solves many problems, including the fact that Austin had a bottle of cologne that broke in his bag with all of his clothes. So we were able to get everything washed, and I did develop a new rule for hiking trips. We're all guys, so I don't know why he brought a bottle of cologne. We don't care what you smell like. But I have now, like, the first line on my list when I prepare trips is no cologne. So you learn things along the way. I had done a fair amount of cardio, but no strength training in preparation for this trip. I'd been recently diagnosed in the November prior to this trip with sleep apnea. So I had a CPAP, I was sleeping better, and I was doing a lot better than I had in the past 20 years. My body was able to recover well from physical stress more quickly, and I was no longer the chief snorer in the room. On our first day of hiking, we picked a more difficult hike than we had done the previous year, about 50% longer and 50% higher. I don't know why we chose to do a much harder hike than the year before, seeing that I had failed. We also slept in intentionally. It was Austin's choice. I'm not sure why. We were hiking all day, and just about a half a mile before the summit, we were starting to run out of daylight. So we chose to turn around, even though we were so close to the top. During our descent, the weather changed. A rainstorm had come upon us, and the rain was melting the snow that was on the ground already. In the final 2 miles of our hike out, the trail had a stream right next to it, and we started to worry that the rain plus the melting snow was going to lead to that creek flowing over the trail, and we would be stuck there. We wouldn't have a way out. Not panicked, but concerned, we were also exhausted. Yet we were pushing as hard as we could through to the exit of the area. We were truly embracing the suck. This is a motto that you may recall if you attended then Dean of Students Greg Redding's chapel talk last spring as he was talking about running ultra marathons. I was the slowest, naturally. The other two guys were 24 years old, and at the time I was 47. I lagged about a quarter mile behind the other two guys. The rain downpour intensified. It was dark now. I could hear the water rushing past me, but was not able to see the height of the water in the creek. I was not truly embracing the suck anymore. To add to my physical discomforts, I was experiencing hallucinations. I assumed these were from exhaustion. I saw tigers. Literally, in my mind, I saw tigers jumping through the brush near the path next to me. Now, I was educated. I knew that there were not tigers in this forest, so I was slightly reassured. But when your eyes are seeing things that you know shouldn't be there, you're kind of in this weird middle ground. The next summer, I traveled back up to the Adirondacks. This was fair weather hiking. Summer is always going to be easier than winter. No snow on the ground, warmer climates, more predictable weather. On that trip, I summited 7 peaks. All of my hikes were solo, but rarely was I ever alone. I would cross paths with other hikers and hike together for a mile or so. I met several 46ers. These are individuals who've climbed all 46 peaks in the High Peaks Wilderness area, which are over an elevation of 4,000 feet. Everybody was generous with their time and knowledge and encouraging to me in my new adventures. In the evenings, I stayed at a lodge that was built by, maintained by, and staffed by the Adirondack Mountain Club. They have 2 lodges near major trailheads that have been operated for over 100 years. I became a member of the Adirondack Mountain Club. About 9,000 miles away from my home, I feel I have a second home. In the winter of 2024, a trip with no summits, only norovirus, the trip was with Austin Shivington again and a newcomer to our trip, class of 2020, Cruz Garcia. I had been successful in preparation for this. I'd done a lot of cardio, I'd done some strength training, and I was excited, eager to climb some snow-covered peaks. My trip began with me picking up food poisoning. About 36 hours later, I visited the emergency room, and then we transitioned to norovirus, something that I picked up from Cruz. So that was all fun. We left reaching no mountaintops. This past summer, I returned, and I summited 7 more peaks. I was not alone this time. I had 2 other Wabash graduates who would hike with me on various days. One is Patrick Garrett, class of 2012. He's a local Crawfordsville guy. And then a 2018 graduate, Kaz Caring, Lambda Chi, who was living down closer to New York City. With Kaz, I did an evening hike with him and his dog. It was about 5 p.m. when we started. Immediately, we missed the very large trailhead sign with an arrow pointing this way, and we kept walking forward. We eventually got to the top of a mountain, bushwhacking our way the entire way up. We were not on a trail, so we had to push through tree branches and everything. He even had his dog with him, which made all of this even more fun. Finally, at the summit, time was fleeting, the sky was gray with clouds, and the sun was 15 minutes from setting. We strapped our headlamps on and searched around the mountaintop for the actual trail that we should have been on. We still had not realized the error of summiting the wrong mountain. Mind you, I did have a map and a compass in my pocket, or in my bag. For whatever reason, I never got them out. If I got them out, I would have known we were wrong. On the trail down, we reached what we thought was near the end of the trail, and the trail kind of vanished in front of us. We stopped for a second, panned around, and we found a collection of dry rocks that we assumed were a dry stream bed. So we're like, we just need to push over this, and then we'll probably find the trail again. As we were doing that, about 50 feet in front of us at eye level, the headlights of a car drove by, and we were like in celebration. We'd found civilization. After intentionally leaving civilization, we thought we were done. We thought everything was over. We got back out onto the road. I pulled out my phone. I had a cell signal. I got onto Google Maps, found out that we were in fact on the road that we had parked on. So we were like, great. I zoomed out a little bit. We were 1.5 miles away from where the truck had been parked. So after dealing with everything that we had dealt with, we then had to walk 1.5 miles to get back to Kaz's truck. I finally, when we got back to the vehicle, I pulled the map out, found the mountain that we had actually hiked up, and the little logo next to it was of a mountain, like a rock climber. That tracks. It felt like we were doing rock climbing stuff with a dog. A few days after being lost with Kaz in the woods, I set out to climb another mountain, Giant Mountain. It's a 3-mile trip to the top and about a 300-foot elevation rise. It was a warm, muggy day. I began my hike at 6:30 in the morning, met many wonderful people on the way up. I finished at about 1 o'clock, walked across the road, and took a dip in Chapel Pond. I floated around in the cool alpine waters, enjoying the sunshine, amusing myself with 2 ladies from New Jersey who were failing to maintain their position on a 2-person inflatable, and amused by a few ducks submarining for their lunchtime meals. My final hike of last summer was a 12-mile hike attempting to achieve 5 peaks all at once. I began at 3:45 in the morning. Working forward in the darkness was without incident, and then the summiting of the first 2 peaks was easy, or seemingly so. A little more than halfway through my hike, I knew I was in some trouble. I had applied some anti-chafing product where you might think at the start of the day, but failed to bring that product with me. This was bad news. I had also misread my map. My hike was longer than I thought, and I had a greater elevation change than I had anticipated. The final 3 hours of my hike were all downhill. For the uninitiated, a downhill section may seem like a relief or a resting time, but long eccentric sections kill your legs. The lodge I was staying at served dinner at 6:30. They did not hold food for you. This guy makes it back for dinner. I made it back by 6:15, a 14 and a half hour hike. I ran out of water about 15 minutes before I made it back, so I was feeling everything going wrong at this time. I ate my dinner as fast as I could and went to bed to recover. The lodge I was staying at also involved a 3.5 mile hike to get back to where my vehicle was parked. So this lodge is like in the woods. This past winter, I made another trip back up to the Adirondacks. This one, the theme would be my knee, which has arthritis, was the winner of everything. I engaged in 3 different hikes, only attaining one summit. I failed to join the final hike that the guys went on. I decided to stay back at the lodge we were staying at. But after hearing their stories of what the trip was like, now these guys were 23, 26, and 27, and they had a rough time at it. So me, now 49, I'm happy that they were like, Elrod, you made the right decision. I'm like, you don't have to tell me. I understand what my limitations are. What I enjoyed most about these hikes in the High Peaks Wilderness is that you have to prepare to handle a myriad of issues. Trail conditions, weather changes, physical exhaustion, medical issues, animal encounters, dehydration, and nutrition. In the High Peaks Wilderness, there is not an exit ramp, an easy escape from what you've embarked on. Good hikes and bad hikes, you must keep your mind sharp and be prepared for the unexpected. Getting older is not always wonderful. I'm going to maintain a Big Lebowski quote that was started from last week's chapel talk. Sam Elliott's character in The Big Lebowski, the stranger, when encountering the dude at a bar, gave him this gem. Sometimes you eat the bear, and sometimes, well, he eats you. Some issues of older age are nice. Not worrying about teenager slang, going to bed early. But then there are aches and pains that seemingly arise from minor activities. It's not so much fun. Some things I don't have an answer for. This is one thing I don't have an answer for, is when do I stop caring about the weird hairs that grow out of my ear? I see gentlemen who are like 20 years older than me, and they have like these bushes growing out of their ears, and whenever I see a single hair, I'm like going in with like little tiny scissors trying to cut them back as far as I can. I never pull on them because I'm afraid of I don't know where they're attached. What I do know, as soon as you stop doing physical tasks, routine chores, exercises to maintain fitness, you begin to lose the ability to do so. I've seen it in my life with people in my family. So I work to maintain a physical independence from machines, devices, and services sold to make your life easier. So I've given you some bad stories of hikes. So not every hike ends in disaster. I've had many wonderful hikes. It's just that perfect hikes don't give you really good stories. The true joy of hikes is more than the elevation that you receive at reaching the summit. The summiting act is phenomenal, don't get me wrong. But the beauty of the natural surroundings, the lack of a phone signal, and the we're all in this together mantra that you get from strangers on the trail, that is why I hike in the Adirondacks. So today, I challenge you to do something new, something that you will struggle at. Meet your fears and your weaknesses head on. Do something that will motivate you to be a little better tomorrow than you were yesterday. Find your mountain, literal or figurative, and climb it. If you wish to explore upstate New York, we can talk. Go Bills. Wabash always fights, and thank you.
A few final announcements. On Friday, track and field has a meet at Emory. Volleyball has a home game versus Calvin. On Saturday, baseball has a game at John Carroll. Volleyball has another home game versus Trine. And rugby has a match at Hillsdale. Saturday will also be National Act, so make sure to claim your wristbands from Vic Lindsay at the library by this Friday. Lastly, I would like to congratulate sophomore Ryan West for achieving All-American honors for his 8th place finish at his event in the NCAA swimming. That makes a total of 5 All-Americans for Wabash Athletics so far this semester. Congratulations to all of you. Good luck to those who are competing this weekend. Wabash always fights. Now, would you please rise and join me in singing Old Wabash? Ba-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, ba-da-da-da, from the hills of Maine to the western plains.